This is Mostly Grief with Matt Wilson. Welcome to Chapter 5, Surgery Number 1. Surgery Day is finally here, November 30th. We've been waiting for this since March, the supposed end of our long year. The chemo, the radiation, the blood tests, the scans, the CEA levels, the waiting, the worrying. All of it was supposed to lead to this moment, the finish line, the reward at the end of the brutal year. The surgery was at St. Francis Hospital on Long Island, the hospital we already knew inside and out from all the appointments leading up to this. We got there wicked early, like 6 a.m. early. It was pouring rain, sheets of rain, but we knew exactly where to park, how to get inside without getting soaked, and how to get through security. COVID rules, of course. And even though everything was different that year because of COVID, one thing was the same. On that drive down, we listened to Howard Stern. We laughed at Baba Booey, a tiny bit of normal on a very not normal day. Once we got inside, it was time for Kelly to go back for prep. Now, normally the person accompanying the patient gets to go back with them. You sit with them until they're taken into surgery. But of course, COVID. So they called her name, and that was it. I watched her walk away, and I sat alone in the corner of the waiting room. Now, I had arranged in advance to stay at a cousin's apartment about 20 minutes away. The chairs in the hospital were uncomfortable. And with a 5 to 6 hour surgery, I figured maybe I should at least sit somewhere comfortable. So after about an hour in the waiting room, I decided to go. Drove through the monsoon, got to my cousin's place, only to discover he didn't know his Wi-Fi password and he couldn't find the TV remote. So there I was, watching Friends reruns with the volume blasting because we couldn't turn it down. I plugged my phone in across the room to charge. I was actually thinking about taking a nap, or at least trying. And then the phone rang. A 516 number. Long Island. She'd only been in surgery for 90 minutes. Way too early to be done. I knew. I answered. It was the colorectal surgeon. First thing he said was, first off, Kelly's okay. Okay, good. But then he told me while the other doctor was performing the hysterectomy, he was getting ready for his part of the surgery, and he saw something. Cancer. Spread to the abdomen. He said she needed a surgery called HIPEC, a hot chemo wash, which they don't do at St. Francis, but Mount Sinai in New York City specializes in it. He said it was best not to proceed with the rectum and tumor removal today. He believed they should close her up and reassess, and he needed my permission. Of course, I agreed. Of course. He told me to drive back to the hospital and we'd tell Kelly together. This was the first moment. The very first moment that I truly thought she might not be okay. Hope had carried us all year. The plan had carried us all year. And then suddenly the plan was gone. This was my oh shit moment. I drove back through the rain, the same monsoon, my mind racing. Hope wasn't gone, but worry was finally catching up to it. As the surgeon later put it, he saw cancer cells along the abdominal wall, the consistency of snot, what's called ascites. Kelly and I always called it cancer juice. Classy, I know. He sent it to pathology. They ran a quick test, came back positive, obviously. Instantly, her cancer went from stage 3 rectal cancer to stage 4 rectal cancer that had spread to the peritoneum. I waited in the waiting room until the doctor came to get me, and then we walked back to see Kelly. She was groggy, half awake, still in the recovery area. He woke her up gently, and he told her everything that he had told me. She later said that she knew something was wrong right away, that the surgery felt short, and she wasn't in enough pain for it to have been the major surgery that we'd planned on. He explained the hysterectomy was fine, but they found cancer on the abdomen, and she'd need HIPEC surgery at Mount Sinai as soon as possible. And after he finished, he left us alone. And Kelly looks at me and she goes, "What'd he say?" So I repeated everything, every word, and then she fell back asleep. Now, COVID policy said family members could spend 10 minutes in the recovery area, 10 minutes. But no one asked me to leave. No one even looked at me. And that's when I knew when hospital rules don't apply to you, it's for a bad reason. Eventually, they moved her upstairs to a tiny little room. It's an old hospital, small space. But the care was phenomenal. I stayed until about 9 that night, And then I drove home through the rain, 2 hours back to Connecticut. And that's when I made the first of what would become many phone calls for the next year. I called my parents. I called her parents. I called her sisters. I called our friends, anyone who needed updates. That was the night I unknowingly started my new job, Kelly's communications director. So we thought we were at the end, but we weren't. Instead of finishing the journey today, we learned that cancer had spread and we needed a whole new plan at a whole new hospital. Kelly stayed positive. She always did. But I was worried. I was really worried. Because for the first time all year, there wasn't a plan. It was just a we'll see. I'm not good with we'll see. I need a plan. And then 7 days later, we were at Mount Sinai in Manhattan. And that's the next chapter. Thanks for listening to Mostly Grief. Chapter 6, Surgery Number 2 is coming up next.